What is going on, everyone? I hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to be doing a PC port report for A Plague Tale Requiem, which is a sequel to a game by a very similar name, A Plague Tale Innocence, which is available now. It is on Steam for, I believe, $50. It is also on Game Pass, which is the version of the game that I am testing out. Now, I've had access to this game for a couple of weeks now when testing the RTX 4090 that I'll be using for this port report to take a look at the performance, frame times, features, graphics options, all that kind of stuff. But I am testing the retail version, so this is not like an early release copy without a day one patch. This is the Game Pass version of the game that I downloaded separately from the Steam version, which, like I said, I had early access to it, but I wanted to use the retail version in case there was any differences there. So we'll be taking a look at it. This is also one of the few games that has NVIDIA frame generation on it, as well as DLSS. We'll be taking a look at that. And despite the fact that this game was announced to have ray tracing, there's no ray tracing options in the game right now. So I guess that'll be coming in a later update, but let's get into it. But first, today's video is brought to you by SuperCDK.com, where you could save money on games for all of your favorite platforms, as well as software like Windows 10 Pro licenses for just $22, and then you can unlock the prestigious Dark Mode for Windows 10, which I honestly could not live without. It is blinding without the dark mode. You guys need it in your life. And now you can also save an additional 25% off at checkout by clicking Buy Now on any software products over there. Just go ahead and add it into your cart and put in my code JP25 at checkout and apply, and that'll bring our price from $22.44 all the way down to $16.83, a savings of over $5. And I'll walk you through how to get your key and install it on Windows 10. Go ahead and click Submit Order and complete your checkout from there. For me, that's going to be with PayPal, and then click on Pay Now. After completing the checkout, it'll bring you to your purchased order page, and it will update in a matter of seconds, or just go ahead and hit F5. Go ahead and do that one time. It came through literally immediately. I got the payment email that it had gone through and the delivery of the product exactly at the same time. Once you're done with that, go ahead and click on View Keys and Codes, and we'll get our code right here that we can go ahead and copy and paste in on Windows 10 by hitting the Start button and type in the word Activate. When you see that activation settings or see if Windows is activated, go ahead and click on that, and it'll bring up this right here, and click on Change Your Product Key or Unlock Windows 10. As I already have Windows 10, I obviously don't need to put in a new key, but just paste it in and then go ahead and click Next, and you are all done and set. For more information on SuperCDK.com as well as the coupon code, be sure to check out the links down in the description below. So as always with these port reports, I like to start off in the options menu, and then we will discuss performance in the game itself, and we'll start off with the graphics options and show you guys what we have available in there. For all of my testing, I was playing at 4K here on the RTX 4090, which I know a lot of people are going to say like, oh, you're on a 4090, that's unreasonable, but it really comes down to optimization, frame times, that kind of stuff, not necessarily what graphics card I'm using. It's really about optimization at the end of the day, and what kind of options are available for you guys to tweak in the game when we're talking about port reports and stuff like that. We also have full screen, or there is a windowed mode, which I'm probably going to ruin my recording now by switching that, but there it is, and it didn't seem to die right away. We've also got NVIDIA DLSS Super Resolution, and we've got all the typical culprits in here: automatic quality, balance, performance, ultra performance, and DLAA for an anti-aliasing solution that is not DLSS, so that's not going to like upscale the game necessarily, where it's going to like lower the resolution and then reconstruct the image. That's just like NVIDIA's anti-aliasing solution that we've seen in a couple games now, like Spider-Man Remastered also has that available in there. And as I said, there is NVIDIA DLSS frame generation, which I'll show some footage of that in a little bit, and you can use that at native resolution if you want to as well. So you don't even need to use DLSS to lower the image the resolution, I should say. You can use frame generation to get a higher frame rate without actually reducing the resolution. We've also got NVIDIA Reflex in here because of course, and it goes on enabled or on boost. No FSR in the game, only DLSS for now. Motion blur is available, or chromatic aberration if for some reason you want to make the game look worse, but I don't, so I turn them off. We've also got a graphics preset that goes all the way up to ultra, and then all of our various options in here, like draw distance, shadow maps, volumetric lights, ambient occlusion, depth of field, contact shadows, light shafts, screen space reflections, and texture quality. So those are all the available options in here. Everything I did in the gameplay was all tested, completely maxed out. There's also a good amount of options in here as far as customizing, sensitivity and aim assist, so accessibility options, even though there's not really an accessibility menu. There's a good amount of options in here if you want to adjust things. And you could pretty much put this game onto God mode if you want to and play on like a narrative difficulty. And there's even an invincibility mode where literally like nothing bad can happen to you if you just want to experience the story and narrative of A Plague Tale Requiem, which could be understandable. Audio options in here, we've got a good amount of listening options, which is always nice to see. I'm playing on home theater because I was on a 5.1 setup. We've also got headphones, TV, or hi-fi. I love seeing these different options in here. Different audio mixes depending on the audio setup that you happen to be using. And we've got fully remappable key bindings in here. Always good to have that as well. So all of that is in there. So let's discuss the performance in A Plague Tale Requiem. So overall, I have to say that I am pleased with the port quality for A Plague Tale Requiem. The graphics options, everything as I showed you guys there is all solid. Definitely not the most robust or intriguing options menu for a PC port, but it's serviceable. It's absolutely fine, and the performance is solid as well. For the most part, going through the game, as I'm playing on a 4090, I was able to play at native 4K, everything maxed out without an issue. I was anywhere from 70 to over 100 FPS, but most of the time actually walking around, it was more like around the 80 FPS range. And of course, frame generation was there. I'll talk about that separately a little bit, but the frame times and everything were all pretty smooth. There were some hitches here or there, but they seem to mostly be limited to when it is transitioning from like one area to another. So sometimes there's a cutscene and it'll be going like in and out of the cutscene, or it just might be a transition where sometimes you'll like hop over a wall or something and you go into a new area, and you'll see the frames will sort of like suddenly spike out of nowhere and drop down a lot, and it'll be like a big hitch, but you can kind of tell the game is really just loading in assets from one area to the next. But when actually playing in the game and running through the world and everything, it ran absolutely fine. For me at native, like I said, I didn't really need to use the frame generation, but I wanted to check it out anyway. So I did try whacking it on, and it instantly sent the frames over 100 FPS, and it looked really good. This was at native. I didn't even have DLSS on for this. It was just the frame generation. Didn't really feel the need to use the DLSS along with it, although I did try it out, and I was like 150 to 160 frames per second. And with the frame generation currently is limited to literally one graphics card. So I feel like it's kind of redundant to kind of point this out, but if you're playing this game and you have the option to use frame generation, you probably won't need to use it because, like I said, the game was running really well at native anyway, but it's there if you want to get the game over 100 FPS and maybe get it to a locked 120, 144, whatever your monitor's refresh rate happens to be. But frame times all really smooth when playing the game. The graphics on this game, the visuals are really good. There's some parts of it that look kind of soft and sort of like washed out a little bit, like certain things like skin and stuff during certain lighting situations can look a little washed out and like overblown. But for the most part, the game looks really good. Shadows look incredible. The textures also, like the textures on the clothing and everything, and just the environment in the world and everything looks fucking great. It's a beautiful looking game, and you would hope so. The particles also, oh man, there's a couple of scenes in this game, like one part where at least in the first hour where I was playing it, there's a part where you like sneak into like a castle, and there's a lot of stuff burning, so there's like ash and like different particles like all floating through the air, and it just looks really, really good. And then there was another scene not too far after that where it was like a dream sequence, and you were walking through like a field of like flowers and stuff, and there was like rose petals like just flying through the air, like hundreds of them, thousands of them maybe even, flying through the air. And it's a gorgeous looking game, something really to be appreciated and enjoyed. So that's why I said earlier I can understand why some people may want to just put on the narrative experience and not deal with the difficulty of the game, which is not that hard anyway. It's a stealth game, but it's fairly forgiving and it's pretty straightforward. It's almost kind of like the meme of a walking simulator, but it's a good one with an interesting narrative, good writing, good characters, good dialogue, great voice acting. So yeah, if you played A Plague Tale Innocence, this is basically that, but more. And from what I could tell, that A Plague Tale Innocence kind of came out of nowhere, for me at least. And then when they announced the sequel, I wasn't surprised because that was met with a lot of praise. But it does seem like even between one game to the next, they have done a really good job over at Asobo Studios, who work under Focus Entertainment, who are the publishers, the developers of Asobo Studio. And I think they did a great job with their second game. It seems like they obviously had a lot more money at their disposal to sort of like crank things up when it came to the visual detail, the graphics, all that kind of stuff. And I think they did a great job. And if you like the first game, you're probably going to like this game too, I have a feeling. I didn't finish the first game, but I did play it, and it seemed interesting to me. It's just like one of those games where like you play it like, oh, wow, this is great. I'm going to come back to this at some point. And I just never did. That's probably what's going to happen with Plague Tale Requiem, again, if I'm being honest. But from what I played so far, I enjoyed this more than Innocence. And I can't really quantify exactly why that is. It just seemed a little funner. A little more, even though you are walking around stuff, it's like some of the action sequences that I experienced early on in the game were a little more fast-paced and sort of got me into it right away. So I've enjoyed what I played so far, and the port looks to be pretty solid. And like I said, DLSS is available in the game, so if you're on a 30 series or 20 series and you're going to need the extra edge for performance, that's available to you if you want to get the bump. But unfortunately, no FSR, and I'd be curious to see if anyone tries the FSR 2 mod and see if they can get that working in this game, as that seems to work on pretty much most games that have DLSS. You can put FSR 2 or FSR 2.1 even, put those files in there and get it to work through the mods. So that's definitely a possibility if you're not running on a card that supports DLSS, which is certainly possible. And I do hope they add an FSR at some point. I feel like if you're going to have a game with DLSS, it should also have FSR. I don't know if it needs to have Intel XeSS upscaling yet, but FSR works well enough. It's not as good as DLSS, but it works well for people that need that extra boost in performance if they're struggling to run a game, and this game is quite taxing. So be aware of that going into it, but it's on Game Pass, like I said. So if you have Game Pass, or you can get a Game Pass trial for I think you can get like the first month for like $1, and it's like $5 a month, and this is included with it. So really not too much of a reason not to check it out if you got the Game Pass or if you have access to it on PC here. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below on A Plague Tale Requiem. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, and I will catch you guys next time. Ta-ra.